moms and dads who have young kids or are expecting their first one, and they're suddenly sharing all this stuff to the world. They're so excited. They're like, oh my God, look at these pictures, these videos. But they're sharing so much information that immediately these data brokers are already creating files on that baby. They already are cross-selling information about that baby. Even if that baby doesn't have a name, the data brokers might know because they've been listening through one of the devices.
Oh my God. Don't know.
Well, yeah.
The Love and Order Podcast with your host, LawyerLimor. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed on this podcast are not legal advice that can be relied on. They are based solely on the limited information provided. These opinions do not create any attorney-client relationship. Those seeking legal advice should contact an attorney in the appropriate jurisdiction and practice area.
I'm like a wind-up doll.
Okay, so I'm from LA. I am a proud Iranian American Jew. And today's guest is also a proud American Jew, Alan Silberberg. So we're going to get into the main topic of this episode, but we can't get there without first talking about everything that's been going on with Israel, with what we've been seeing on the news. Every single person I've spoken to this week, Alan, when we start the small talk of how are you, we start with the fake, oh, great. But, not that great.
Yeah, if they're not crying beforehand.
Right.
First off, thank you very much for having me. It's really a pleasure. It's super. I love this podcast. I think you do a great job with it.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, this is a horrible situation, both from a humanitarian perspective and obviously as a Jew, I'm seeing like the mirrors of World War II show up in ways that I don't think any of us ever could have expected in this modern age. That being said, technology is being used to amplify the worst. So the worst things that can be done are being edited and cut and turned into these highly polished videos that are being sent around by Hamas and Hezbollah to scare more people. And some of those videos actually have malware in them. So it's like a double threat, your brain and your device.
Wow.
And right before we started this, you and I were talking about technology a little bit. And I think that all technology has two sides, right? You can either use it for good or you can use it for bad. And in this week, what we've seen is technology that could be used against children and used against older people who may not be able to discern between something that's real or not, and manipulate this story into ways where suddenly we're seeing people who never would have in a million years seem like they're an anti-Semite. Suddenly they're liking videos and they're sharing videos and sharing things from terrorists.
Absolutely. And it is so scary because with these algorithms, you also see we're not even being fed the same content, whether it's real or not, right? Whether it's misinformation or it's genuine, everyone's feed looks a little bit different because these computers, they just know what is going to hit with each person. So before we get into all of that, Alan, you are the cybersecurity guy. And because you are the cybersecurity guy, the only part of your intro I feel comfortable giving is that you are the CEO of Digijaks. But there's so much more about your career that people need to know. But I want you to give the intro because I'm not trying to get in trouble with all of the work you've done and what needs to be kept a secret or what, whatever it is. So could you please introduce yourself to the Love and Order audience, because we have professionals from every different field who listen to this. And we have young people who are very interested in professional careers in the future. And I think actually that your field is one that obviously is interesting to everyone, but there are young kids now or kids in college who are so interested in obviously the internet, but the internet that I know is not the internet that Alan Silberberg knows. So give us your career trajectory, whatever you're comfortable sharing. Sure. as just an introduction to who you are.
Thank you. My friends like to say that when they invite me to dinner parties, it's for one of two reasons. Either it's to scare the living hell out of all their friends, or to provide free cybersecurity advice for an hour in exchange for my meal.
I love it.
Cybersecurity is obviously a huge part of all of our lives. We live in a world of ones and zeros where phones and your car and your watch and your computer at home and your computer at work are only part of the picture. The bigger picture is the hundreds of servers that all your information's on and how it all transforms around the world and travels around the world. My background is basically probably one of the oddest ones anyone's ever come up with. And I was very fortunate at a young age to start my professional career working in the U.S. White House for President Clinton. And when that happened, I was one of the really youngest people on the staff. I was in the executive office of the president. And when we came into as a new team into the White House in early 1993, so now I'm really dating myself.
Wait, hang on. Did you know Monica?
Wow. If I had a dollar for everyone who's ever asked me that, it'd actually be worth something. No, I luckily avoided having any contact with her. Unfortunately, anyone who had any contact with her ended up getting hauled into court or dragged into the congressional hearings. Huge legal bills that they had to pay for themselves. So I was actually quite lucky in that way, and I didn't have anything to do with that.
I'm so happy for you.
I was with the president at certain times when he had to deal with it, and that's a whole other podcast. But when we came in, the White House phone system was basically antiquated, and they'd run the Korean War on it. And what we had to install the first computerized networked phone system in the White House, which requires a lot of security and encryption and understanding of how everything works. But I was given like a 6-week period to figure all that out with 4 other people who were all experts in telecom, and I wasn't. And I was the supposed computer person. And we ended up putting in what still stands today as a modern, networked telephone system in the White House. And after that, they asked me. I started traveling as an advanced team member with the president and vice president around the country, and that allowed me. That was actually really cool. It's one of the most exciting things I've ever done in my life.
It sounds like it. It sounds like that is awesome.
And I lived my life in an encrypted bubble. So basically everything that we did, walkie-talkies, beepers at the time, cell phones, fax machines, was all encrypted. We had a limited window of proximity of space around the motorcades and around events where we could talk to each other. And if you got outside that window, then you actually would lose encryption, or they wouldn't be able to hear you at all. So it taught me a huge amount about privacy and security, but also it taught me about diplomacy and discretion and the need to be able to read situations quietly and ask a lot of questions, maybe without people even understanding why you're asking the questions. So I started Digijaks, well over a decade ago. Based off some technology I invented to protect people and also to fix people's reputations at the same time. And we've been using a version of that technology or parts of it ever since. And our clients are ultra high net worth individuals, CEOs, sports figures, celebrities, some politicians, and some multinational corporations. And also we work with small businesses and try to help, as many people as we can.
So this encrypted bubble and what you built in the White House decades ago, so what you built in the White House, is that still up to date? Was it so advanced back then that it's something that still most entities have not caught up with?
All I can say is it's definitely been added to and changed since what we put in. What stands now is a much more modern version of what we had done.
Okay.
Beyond that, I don't really know the details, and I don't think I should address it. So
yeah, never mind. So that encrypted bubble, do we need to have our own personal encrypted bubbles? Do we need to be more aware of what we're doing on the internet?
Absolutely. You know what? And I wish more people asked that question or even understood what to ask. If you think about it, the context of a normal person's life about this is, are you using encryption on email? Are you locking down your phone or your device so you have to sign in every time you use it, and log out so that the encryption kicks in when you're logging out? And are you doing that with your connected devices? And are you also doing that with your external things like bank accounts, insurance accounts, health situations, logging into your favorite music website or YouTube or whatever? Most people don't think about it. They would rather have the comfort and the ease of just being able to do something by push button or sliding a mouse or whatever. But taking those extra couple seconds, it's a lot like thinking about cybersecurity as a daily hygiene, just like people brush their teeth or get dressed in the morning. The people who don't brush their teeth in the morning, I mean, we all kind of stay away from them, right?
Yeah.
So cybersecurity is sort of like, the more you're more secure, the more that you kind of take little steps every day. So like a personal encrypted bubble would be the notion of that you're using two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication on everything that's possible. Whether it's like, if it means it takes an extra minute to sign into something, well, then that's what it means. And you've just protected your identity, or you've just protected your money, or your kid's identity, or your kid's money, or whatever.
I love that. So you are not pro Face ID.
It depends on the situation. Okay. Actually, things like that are much better than something like a simple password. However, I mean, in my business, that also means that someone with a gun could cause you to hold your phone to your head pretty quickly and get into your accounts, or some other extortion. It may not be something like, it might be like, hey, if you don't send us money in 10 minutes, we're going to do that. There's all kinds of digital extortion that occurs now. And I'm using the word extortion very specifically. This is a little bit different than like the kind of extortion we think about in movies and TV shows, like the mob kind of like, dropping by and firebombing someone's, restaurant.
Right.
It's the digital version.
Right.
And it's done in really slick ways and quick. People in your business with all the divorces and the families in trouble and families who are facing multiple digital environments. Okay, they're going from one sort of school and home environment to double that, right? So now it's school plus 2 homes, maybe 2 homes, and suddenly maybe even 2 sets of email addresses, right? Because maybe the one parent doesn't want to see what the other. I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios. I know that, and the problem is that leaves families and children wide open to abuse, to having their identity stolen, to having their social security numbers stolen. For kids, you don't think about it, but like if a child or a teenager has their social security number stolen, what it means is that someone else takes that perfectly clean identity and then can use it for all kinds of credit nastiness. By the time that person, the real one, turns 18 and starts to apply for things, suddenly they're like, oh, you have an F rating on your credit. What did you do? How come you owe $33,000 to some bank? And unfortunately, when that happens, it destroys these kids' lives for a decade because it takes forever to undo that damage.
So what is the answer then? Because every kid wants to be all over the internet, and there are so many apps and there are so many things to sign up for. I'll be fully transparent. There are apps that I've signed up for that I don't even use anymore. So I've deleted them from my phone, but I know that my information is still within their database, I'm sure, right? It doesn't even matter if I'm logging in every day. They have some sort of information, right? So what are we supposed to do?
Well, before I answer that question, let me try to paint this picture, okay? Like 10 years ago, I gave speeches to audiences about the fact that when we would use digital devices and social media, mobile phones, and this was before connected cars and connected watches and connected homes, that the average sort of person who paid for a smartphone, who had and maybe had a couple devices and a cell phone, was generating at that time between 15 and 20,000 digital data points daily that would then be chopped up and sold to, 300 or 400 databases around the world, data brokers. Now, I would say it's probably closer to 45 or 50,000 data points per day. Now that increases the more that you're connected. So if you have a connected car and connected home, boom, like it's just, what does that mean? Data points. Well, that's like your name, the color of your eyes. Every time you like something, every time you dislike something, every time you share something, every emoticon you use, every GIF you use. Every time you go from one website to another website, it's tracking all that. Every time you go from one website to another thing inside that website, it's tracking that. Every time you click on an ad, every time you click on another ad, it all gets put together. So the question is, how does it get sold? And I guess really, who does it get sold to, right?
Yeah. Let me interrupt, because there are some people who say, what do I care if they know what restaurant I went to today and what I ate and what I clicked on, and that I'm looking for a tank top and I want that tank top on sale and I want free shipping on the tank top and I want all of this, when, we're in a world where people are posting that they're doing that. They're posting all of those things. So what is the value in those data points? From
a celebrity protection perspective, we have dealt with multiple clients who have been physically stalked because of exactly, unfortunately, they show up at a charity event or they do something and check in. It doesn't happen so much anymore because people are more aware of it. But the extreme example would be what you saw this weekend in Israel. The music festival was widely publicized on social media. They were live streaming the event. There was a lot of social media interaction from accounts from the happy side of the festival before all the things happened. Paragliders showed up over the border, and there's video of the people at the music festival still dancing and enjoying themselves and looking up and pointing at the gliders, kind of thinking it's part of the show.
Yeah.
So in addition to all the military and terrorist planning that went on for this thing that the Hamas did, they were monitoring that social media. They knew that live event was occurring at that moment when they did this, and that is why they targeted it. So there you go. I mean, it's sort of like, where's the connection end? If someone says, well, it doesn't matter, I don't have anything to lose, I'm just a regular person, who's going to come after my kids? My answer, and I said this to you, I think, in person, do you have money? Do you have a health insurance plan? Do you have a car? Do you have a social security number? Does your mom have a social security number? Does your dad? All those things are worth dollars on the internet, and they're sold in various amounts depending on what they're selling. So if they're selling someone's social security number, as a U.S. citizen, it's going to be $50 maybe online, okay? If they have a Black Amex card, maybe it'll be $500 because it's the card plus the social security number. Maybe if they have a Black Amex card and they have Medicare, which I know those two don't go together, but they do.
Well, sometimes just the age. It could just be the
for
age.
Older people, it definitely does. Then it's like, okay, now we could go create a fake person and go get medical coverage. It just expands upon how much information have we provided to these people. So on one hand, it's like, try to live in as much as you can. With kids, I have children, so they're teenagers, 3 sons. I'm sure they don't like the fact that over the years, I've really tried to keep a pretty strict guidance on how to use social media, what ages were they allowed to use them. We were very careful about that. Without that, I think they would have been on a lot earlier. There would have been a lot more commotion with it. But also, my kids probably have the benefit, or maybe disbenefit, of hearing some of the stories that I've dealt with my clients and their children.
Right.
Some of it gets very, very scary very quickly. The people see this stuff on television and they think it's like, oh, you solve something in 3 hours and go home and have dinner. But in the cyber world, it's a 24-hour situation. Ask any teenager who's been bullied in school. It's a 24-hour. You don't go home and you're not safe at home anymore. You're like, you go home and you turn your computer and you're getting bullied again. And that changes the dynamics of all of our lives. That changes the dynamics of all of this. Many of us have been led to believe that the devices and things that we buy are safe. Cars, watches, whatever. But most of these Internet of Things, the IoT, as it's called, I would say 95% of these devices are shipped without security as any kind of thought, other than they'll pay a little homage to it to make it seem like they've done something to market it. But reality, they didn't build it from a security standpoint first. So then they put it out to the market and oops, we got hacked. Sorry, we'll go get some credit repair and we'll try to help you.
Right. So that it's so interesting you say that, because I think that a lot of people think, and it might be true in some sense, but it sounds like it probably isn't 100%, but people prefer Apple products to Windows because they say Apple can't get hacked, the actual system. I don't know if that's actually true.
That is such a wonderful marketing ploy it's almost like a cult thing. I mean,
it's a cult thing for sure.
It's like, first off, there's the Apple tax. And then you think about anytime anyone uses a Mac product, they're paying more for things that they do.
Yes.
They're paying significantly more in some cases for airfare, or if you're buying something using your iPhone, you're probably paying 15% more than the person standing next to you using an Android. So let's start with that. There were something like 35,000 malicious apps removed from the Apple Store last year.
Wow.
Now, that's removed, okay? That means that there's a higher number that's still there that they haven't removed yet. So when you think about it that way, and then you add something that I'm famous for saying. I've said this to government agencies. I've said this to major, news organizations. There's nothing digital that cannot be hacked. And when you say it like that, it gets people upset.
Yeah. All those Apple taxpayers. Yeah. It makes them really upset. And it's funny because I remember years ago when Blackberries were the thing and then iPhones came out.
Well, I miss my Blackberry. I have to say, I wish my little keyboard in there. Everybody.
Me too. I loved my Blackberry, and I held
how
on
fast
to
could
it.
you type a sentence, before you sent the next one?
Yep. And back then I would notice that the people working for the government entities, or the ones who did have the professional jobs, they stuck to the Blackberry while all the kids went to the iPhone. But then you would hear that Mac never gets hacked, or maybe it was never got viruses. Is that the same thing? Whatever it is.
That was never true either. Okay. So they have less propensity for it than IBM-based computers. And that's probably still true to some extent.
Yeah.
But it's never been true that there weren't viruses. There's always been viruses targeting Macs. In the last couple of years, what we've really seen is a huge number of malware strains that are targeting mobile phones and devices specifically. They're going after the kernels and the operating systems of the mobile devices and meant to take over your life, basically. Because all of us now, I mean, who doesn't freak out if they lose their phone for a minute? I mean, I'll tell you a story. I had to go to a meeting last year at a lunch club here in Los Angeles, and I was running late, and I dropped my phone, which I don't think I've ever done in my life.
I can't believe you don't have one of those retractable cords. That's actually.
I probably should, or I should glue it to my hand or something. Well, anyway, I happened to be that I took a Lyft that day, and the Lyft driver ended up finding the phone, but it took a while. It was like under his seat, and I don't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
And by the time he found it, I already sent a message from my computer to my phone, so it said on the screen, "Call this other number."
How did you do that? Oh, because you're Digijaks. Okay.
Actually, Google makes it really easy. They have an option that allows you to do that. So if your phone's lost, you can send the phone a message and it shows up on the screen.
So you can do that from Google on the computer, or you need a Google phone?
Well, you need to use an Android for that.
Okay.
But you can use it from a computer. You can actually control your phone.
Okay. I'm about to.
So I did that. So then he was able to, like, the driver was able to get in touch with me. Meanwhile, I went to my meeting not having my phone. And the guy I met with was, after about 5 minutes, he's like, I have a question. You're the only person I've ever seen who doesn't have a phone. Like, what's wrong with you? Or in the modern age. I thought you were like a tech geek. And I said, well, actually, I had a phone.
I had a phone, and maybe I also have manners. I haven't taken out my phone.
And yeah, exactly. And I go, I have a phone, but I lost it, I think. And he says, and he's been sitting here this whole time, like, what's wrong with you?
He can't believe you're not at the hospital.
He said, I would have absolutely been hysterical, freaking out. And he goes, aren't you worried like they're going to like steal your life? And I go, no. If anything, they're going to have an expensive plastic toy because they'll never be able to use it. They'll never have access to it. It's completely encrypted. And even if they're somehow able to break one encryption, there's a second level. So they can go spend all the time in the world driving themselves crazy, and they'll get nowhere.
Wow.
I mean, he didn't know what to say to that.
And is that because it's an Android?
No, it's because I spent some time to like jack it.
Yeah, it's because you did what you do to that phone. I see. Okay, so
I made my own little encrypted bubble in a way.
Yep.
Okay, I all of my devices are usually have one or more than one level of encryption on them because it's easy to do. Most of them provide them already on board, and like so for example, a MacBook or any type of Mac computer. They have options to encrypt the whole drive, to encrypt files, but then they also have sign-in options like password, biometrics, face earlier, thumbprint, fingerprint, some combination. The more that you use it, the more likely you're securing your life. Now, nothing's perfect, but the more you do it, the less likely something's going to happen. Now, this is especially true, I think, with celebrities, CEOs, like, and families, moms and dads who have young kids or are expecting their first one, and they're suddenly sharing all this stuff to the world. They're so excited. They're like, oh my God, look at these pictures, these videos. Our lives have changed. We've got baby Moses and baby Jesus together. But they're sharing so much information that immediately these data brokers are already creating files on that baby. They already are cross-selling information about that baby. Even if that baby doesn't have a name, the data brokers might know because they've been listening through one of the devices.
Oh my God. Don't know.
Well, yeah. Everybody uses these voice-controlled devices, whether it's Alexa or their car or Siri. If the thing can listen well enough to hear you say its name, well, that means that the microphone's on.
Oh yeah.
And there's been a lot of lawsuits about this already with app developers who hide the fact that their app automatically turns on the microphone on your phone. You just don't know it because there's no light. When there's a camera, usually there's some sort of light or there's an indicator, but for most phones, there's almost no indicator if your mic is turned on. If you haven't already gone through the settings to preset it so that can happen, oftentimes you won't even know that it's been turned on. So if that's the case, let's just say your phone has, I'm going to guess, 500 apps on it. Is that good? Figure a third of them are listening to you, unless you've already gone through the effort of dealing with the settings on that device to make sure that doesn't happen. So
we always make jokes about, everyone has their own FBI agent listening, right? That's what that's like a joke that we all have. Who is listening? These robots that are then putting the information into a database? Like, what is going on the other end? Because if there was a human on the other end, I want to sign up for that job. I would love to hear what's going on everywhere. I'm just nosy that way.
I bet you it's a combination of both.
Okay.
I think with the data brokers, it's almost all automated. There's probably
Mhm.
very little human intervention at all. From the government agency perspective and news media perspective, there's people listening. So something tricky that government agencies and news media alike have been doing in the last couple years, because of the explosion of digital databases and all these digital bits that we're sending to the air are being sold about us every day. It used to be that the feds or local police would have to go get a warrant for your communications,
Right.
or for your life, or for all these things, right? Well, now all they got to do is spend some money at a digital data broker, target it, cut and splice, and ask for exactly what they need, and they'll get it. And they'll get it without ever having had to go to court, ever having had to deal with a judge or a warrant. And they'll get it instantly, like 24 hours later, right? Magnify that by the news media, magnify that by TikTok journalists and YouTube bloggers and anyone who wants to spend a little bit of money to get information now. As you and I have talked about, multiple divorces, now celebrity cases, there's situations where technology is being used in ways that would be almost unthinkable a few years ago.
Unthinkable. You and I offline talked about, well, I guess we're never offline, it seems, but we did talk about Sophie Turner and Joe Jonas and that Ring camera. So get into that.
Crazy story. I mean, in that one, basically the Ring camera was on and it was triggered by the doorbell, and then certain images and video were captured inadvertently where one party didn't know that the Ring was capturing it, and it led to a divorce, basically. I mean, it's pretty much like, I don't know, well, there's no other way to put it, right? I mean, it was sort of like, if that video hadn't been there, then maybe they would have had other reasons down the road, and they probably would have. But in this case, it was like, boom.
That's crazy.
And where's the privacy aspect? We all walk past all these cameras all the time now, right? No one thinks about it. What control do we have of our own image and the pictures, the color of our eyes, our names, our voices? The more you use voice apps, the more likely it is that your voice is going to get stolen and used against you.
Huh?
Because the AI will just copy it, and suddenly it's you. In my company, we've dealt with several clients who've already been threatened with deepfake videos that look exactly like that. It is almost impossible to tell the difference. And some of these people wake up to things at 2 a.m. where suddenly it's on Instagram or it's on TikTok, and it's like, they by the time they're hearing about it, there's already 10,000 likes on it, and it's fake.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with them. But it's like, in other situations, we have one client who's a celebrity who wakes up pretty much on a daily basis, and I'm not kidding, to at least 15 new Instagram accounts in this person's name every day.
What?
And it's so malicious. It's everything from like, let's try to steal your user base. Let's try to pretend that the other account was hacked and this is the new account. Let's put some cryptocurrency scams up. Let's put porn links up, or both, or malware, or all three. Sometimes it's actually all three.
Wow.
Like the delivery of malware is as soon as you click on it, or you even hover over it in some circumstances. And I think technology is used in these horrible ways to abuse people and to make things worse, right? So, but in the divorce situation that we just mentioned, that one happened because this camera captured it.
Right.
Well, what about the rest of our lives? What cameras are capturing things?
It's such a good point, because even my camera outside of my house captures my neighbor all the time. So sometimes I get the notification and I'm like, I don't have a delivery coming today or anything. It must be her coming home, which, she might not want me to know when she's coming in and
or
out.
when she has visitors, right?
When she has visitors,
Or
absolutely.
the fact that her license plate's constantly on it as her car
Abs-
comes in and out, or
Absolutely.
But also, like, think about how people behave in public. Some of us still have manners.
Yes.
A lot of us don't anymore, it seems like. And there's all kinds of this crazy, ridiculous behavior that then people try to turn into viral videos and, oh, look how great they are, how stupid they are, whatever. But the reality is, should it have been taken in the first place?
Right. That expectation of privacy and the idea of privacy, it doesn't exist.
And I think in other ways that celebrities are affected by technology and divorce especially, social media, for one, is opening the doors to allowing people to meet people quietly without them even having to be at an event somewhere. So it's in that way, it's a little bit harder maybe for a spouse to sort of catch on, but it might be easier too, because now there's like a trail. There's a digital trail that they can follow, right? And if they subpoena the records, they can get the DMs, and kind of it gets crazy, as you know. I mean, once you start, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm just the tech geek. But when lawyers start DMing, start asking the court to demand that someone through discovery reveal their private messages on WhatsApp or their direct messages on Twitter or whatever, or on dating sites, all hell breaks loose. I mean, it's literally like you could write soap operas just from that little piece.
Yes, you can. The things that, listen, I will tell people in a consultation even, okay? Make sure you keep your social media presence clean. And in the divorce world, in the custody world, what I mean is, if you are traveling outside of the state, didn't get consent, or you're telling the other party that you're here, but you're there, don't post all of these geotags everywhere. Don't post pictures of the kid at a party when you said the kid had tutoring. Make sure if you see the other person doing
party,
right? If you see the other person doing that, take a screenshot, right? A lot of people with the red cups or the wine or the this and the that take screenshots. They take screenshots of comments. In DMs, you can now unsend. So I've started telling people, listen, as soon as you get
on some platforms, that's
on
true.
some platforms, I mean specifically Instagram. And so I've started telling people, listen, you have to be really, really quick. If this person is stalking you, harassing you online, whatever they're doing, the second the banner comes in, take a screenshot because the message might disappear.
I agree. And I'll add to that it's actually very easy to do screenshots on mobile phones. Most people don't realize that. On an Android, often all you have to do is swipe left or right. On an iPhone, it's usually one or two buttons, or you can even set it as a homepage feature.
I think mine is like pressing twice on the back.
So that way, once people know how to do it, then it becomes easier to grab that information. So I totally agree with that. I'll add to that not only should you remain clean, okay, but you need to also remain online, okay? This is a huge mistake that people make as they're going through divorces, or they're going through crisis in life, or they're going through reputational issues that we deal with a lot. We see this a lot with CEOs who try to pull back, right? They get afraid of it. And instead of protecting their own name, they withdraw. And if you ever close a social media account that you've already opened that's in your name, not like some funky thing like, pink VW, whatever. but when it's your name, if the minute you give it up, someone else is going to come along and squat it.
Yes.
And on Twitter, they'll pay $8 or $9 or whatever it is to have a little blue verified check mark to make it seem like they're you. Now, I used to have an original legacy verified check mark on Twitter. I had 30,000 followers. Maybe 1,000 reporters follow me still. But when I see these blue check marks on Twitter now, I almost throw up. It's like, oh, come on. What clown is this today?
Alan, me too. And I cannot believe what they've done with the blue checks and the just being able to pay, and now you're verified. That was the only way we could tell
someone was real.
Yeah, an official account from some BS, and now people can just pay.
So we did it when Twitter made their changes, just to protect our clients. I wanted to see how far we could go with their new system, and we actually registered 4 different verified accounts for 4 different celebrities in their names, and got the blue check mark.
Really?
Just
like that.
It was so easy. It was ridiculous. Then they started tightening their policies and they making it a little bit harder. But yeah, it's still pretty much that easy. And it's a huge risk to reputations. I'm surprised there have not been class action lawsuits filed about this yet, because it may not be celebrities. It could be a teacher. It could be a university professor. It could be a CEO, a lawyer. All of us work so hard for our names to be our brand, to earn us money, to be our reputation. If someone comes along and takes it away from you, what do you have left in this world, in this modern world? And this is why I think it's so important, especially with parents with young kids and families going through divorce or other types of strife. Protect your kids first. Like make sure their names and their reputations are forever protected, because it's like life insurance and health insurance. The earlier you're getting it, you spend some more money along the way, but you're safe. You're protecting yourself. If you wait till the end of the days, you're done. It's too late. It doesn't matter. And in this case, parents can do a lot to protect their kids, their social security numbers, to make sure that they're not. And if you want, I could give you like 30 seconds of tips.
I was going to ask, because again, in this world where we know kids want to be online, and really, listen, when you and I were younger, the internet was just getting started. So if our parents or whoever it was kind of said, you're not getting a cell phone until you're 16 or until you're 18, like you're not getting a cell phone. It was
We didn't have them. I'm too old for that.
Well, okay. So when my parents said that, it was fine, because there was only 1 or 2 kids in school who even had them, right? And if everyone doesn't have them, it's not even quite as fun, right? They're just talking to their parents because they're out.
Now we live in this age where everyone needs one, partly of safety concerns for parents who have kids in schools.
Exactly. So give us the 30-second tip.
Okay.
30 seconds worth of tips.
Number one is, if you have kids, make sure that their devices are encrypted.
How do you do that?
Either their fingerprint or their fingerprint. So nobody except the kid can access the device. Yes. And you and the parent. The parent has to have the back door and all that thing. That's number one. And that way the phone device can't be shared and their friends can't do something stupid and get your kid in trouble.
Yes.
So that's just like common sense. Everyone needs to be considering not using SMS, text messaging for anything that's important. I know it's so easy to use, and it's like most people, is the first thing they do on their phone is texting someone. If you're going to text, try to consider with your kids doing it on an encrypted platform like WhatsApp or Signal. The reason is that way the message is just between you. When you do it on SMS, it's like using a walkie-talkie almost. It's almost like having you're broadcasting it to the airwaves in a way. If someone wants to cue in on it, if you're a famous person and you're a celebrity and you're using SMS to text with your kid, you're basically providing a security opening for people to harm your family, because it's easy to. But if you're doing the same thing through Signal or WhatsApp, you're not. Consider purchasing domain names in your children's name. With our reputation clients, we purchase domain names in their names, often in other variations as well, as you know. Yes. This is something that's very important in the reputation problems, is to control your name. Is to make sure that, number one, no one else has access to your name. And in the digital sense, that's a .com or a .net or .org. Okay, so if you can and you have the money, people should purchase domain names in their children's names, and then give it to them when they turn 18 as a gift.
That's nice. I like
and
that.
that way, everybody there's less chance of someone coming along and using that name to fake something out. Don't put social security numbers on any form, on any digital form, unless you absolutely have to for school or for, but if it's just some random thing, don't. They don't need your social security number. Most of the time, they don't really need the birth date, although for kids, that's important because they get birthday reminders and all that too. With my kids, when I refer to them online, it's only now as they're older teenagers that I actually refer to them by their first names. When they were younger, I would only use their initials.
Wow.
And I would never, and now there is not one picture of any of my children that I have posted, and I can't speak for my ex-wife. The one that I have posted, there are no pictures where the kids are tagged with a name, except one who's now 18, and I tagged him about something important that he was doing in his life, and it was with his permission.
Wow.
Which I think that's the thing that a lot of parents truly miss, is asking your kids permission. Is it okay for me to post this picture about you? Because when they're 5 and they look cute, great. When they're 13 and they see that picture, they're like, what the heck? What are you doing? Take that down. And then I think the last thing really is just to think about everybody's digital environment. So families need to think about like why are you putting a name on a form? Why are you, if you have to put stuff on forms, maybe come up with a fake, like a dummy email address, just that you use just for that kind of stuff. Same thing with two-factor authentication. There's no reason why you need to use your cell phone as your two-factor authentication. In my case, I use a secondary phone number. That's not my cell phone number. It's a digital phone number. I could port it onto any phone. And I use that as my SMS verification when I need it for two-factor authentication. So that way, it's not actually tied to my phone number.
Wow.
And it's free.
And it's free. The best part. I love that. Those are, people don't care enough, I think. And did I even mention that October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month? Did you know that? I put that in my email too. Did you know that?
I did, and I'm sorry. I should have. Sorry to my colleagues in cybersecurity. I neglected to mention that. And you actually made a huge point in the beginning of this that I also am going to circle back to now. So young kids are heading towards cybersecurity. It's a huge demand-driven career marketplace. At the last estimate, there's well over 500,000 jobs for well-trained, highly paid cybersecurity people. They're looking for creativity. It's not always about someone who's computer-oriented. Sometimes it's about being able to read the clues and being able to look at pictures and images differently and know the difference between types of terrorism that's used on images or in video. Or sometimes it's about the human aspect and being able to do intelligence and background research. And so there's like 20 different parts of cybersecurity. I'm kind of like a generalist because I grew up with it and I started very early. I also, cybersecurity as a career kind of grew as I've grown too. Like that when I first started, it was like the geeks in the basement. Now it's still the geeks in the basement, but some of them are also next to the CEO. The thing that I've also seen is how fast technology changes. And even for me, and I try to stay ahead of things, and I try to get my kids to show me what's going on and what kind of technology are they using. And the way how fast technology changes, we need young people in this cybersecurity space because only them can understand some of this, to be honest. It's happening at such a rapid clip. And I know that many of our competitor companies, they're not able to make the shift fast enough from whatever their original product was 3 years ago to now. And so they're going to be out of business in a few months because they haven't made that shift. When the shift used to be every 6 or 7 months, right? Now it's probably every 6 or 8 weeks.
Alan, I took a break from TikTok for like a couple months.
And your brain probably felt better, right?
100%. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I felt so much better. But I got back on and there were so many new features. And this is like low bar, like changes in tech. This is like on an app. But there were so many different features. I felt like I forgot how to record a video.
You probably did.
I couldn't even believe where I was. I'm like, this is TikTok. Oh, crap.
Pretty soon we'll have the button for create a deep fake.
Well, did you see that they have now AI by Meta? So Kendall Jenner has an AI profile. Yeah, you've seen this. Okay.
Well, let's talk about that. I think it's fantastic in a way. I mean, on one hand, this is what the strike in Hollywood with the actors and writers has been partially about is AI. And when we hear about that in the news, the context doesn't really make sense, right?
Right.
From an actor's perspective, why would they ever want their image to be used by AI to then replicate them? Because once that happens, they're not getting paid for the rest of that.
Exactly.
That's one side. The other side is, as an actor, and if that's your image that you're controlling, and you're the one behind that alternative image, then that expands your universe and it allows you to market to a whole new group of people. But it requires significant strategy and control of the process. So it's definitely the classic two-edged sword.
Yes. I think it's brilliant but scary. I wish we could. Listen. I think it's more scary than brilliant. Okay. I think it's amazing that we've gotten to this point, but I also think it's very scary that you can just replicate things in a way that the replica seems more genuine than the original, than the real, there are videos that my parents have shared with me. And I look at them and I'm like, that is so fake. That it literally looks like a cartoon to me. They think it's real. And they are such smart people, Alan. And I'm sitting here like, no.
Okay, and if you were a smart criminal, if you spent a little bit of time social engineering someone and getting to understand their likes and dislikes, you could actually craft a highly targeted deepfake video to one person.
Jesus.
And it wouldn't be expensive to do. It wouldn't take a lot of time to do. And that's terrifying. And in my business, I don't like to use the word terrifying too much because it actually makes me scared.
Listen, if you're scared, everyone should be scared.
But I mean, when I see how deep fakes are being used, I gave speeches about this 8-9 years ago about when the idea of deepfakes first came out. I said, well, how long will it be till a government agency is affected by a deepfake video proclaiming something, then everybody starts acting, right? But it's fake. We're declaring war on, or it's going to happen. There's been attempts at it that failed, but it's going to happen. And we're going to see something that causes some sort of massive world conflict that's fake. Or we'll see something that melts down the stock market that's fake. Or, I think with a lot of these like celebrity divorces, okay, there's so much coverage, and you're one of the best out there, I believe, in taking these things apart, because you're actually doing it from a factual perspective. You're not just mocking people. Sometimes a little bit of that, but no, but I mean, like you're actually like, here's the legal reasoning, here's the facts, here's the. Okay, but what happens when there's like the competitor to you, who's the dark Limor, who like starts making fake legal facts, alternative legal reality, citizen, what do they call it? Constitutional citizen reality, like no constitution and they don't belong to anything. And like, well, what happens when a dark fake video of you, someone like, let's just say a competitor says, oh, I'm going to go after Limor because she's so good at these podcasts and these videos and these TikToks. This is how I'm going to take her down. Like that kind of stuff is scary Because when I say it, it's like, it sounds like science fiction. It sounds like a TV show. It sounds like a movie. But unfortunately, all too real.
It's when you talk about it like that, I get this pit in my stomach because I'm thankful that I know you. But most people don't have access to someone like you. And you and I have talked about putting something together for these families because, like you mentioned before, when you split up the home, which, listen, no judgment on it, but it becomes two different homes. There are people now who
sometimes three, like, depends on the whole makeup of the family and like what's going on. I mean,
100%. And a lot of times what I see is the parents are not on board with the same, the same rules for their kids, right? You can play this video game at my house. You cannot play this video game at my house, right? So when we get to cybersecurity, which would be an issue under, legal custody, right? Like decision-making power. When you have parallel parenting, when it comes to the digital environment, what is it that parents can do either together to form a united front in keeping their children safe? Obviously, all of the tips that you gave, amazing. I think I need to make a TikTok with just all those tips, because that is part of the digital routine, right? We have our morning routine.
Do one specifically for mobile phones. I mean, because
I would love to. Yeah, I would absolutely love to, Alan, because if you don't have the united front, right, that set of tips is great. And if you have a united front for parents who are no longer together or never lived together, whatever it is, but then you have the disjointed family, right? These parents who are not, one of them is like, let's put the kid on YouTube. We're going to make millions of dollars. It's going to be great. Put the kid on the internet. They need to keep up with their peers. We can't have them be behind on technology. And then you have the other parent who is, more like you, which is how I hope to be. You can have access. Okay. We just need to keep you safe. And I'll tell you something. Sometimes I see parents, soon to be parents, who post pictures of the sonogram or the ultrasound, whatever. Okay. It has their birthday. It has their full name. Yes. I'm sitting there like, you cannot be serious. Why are you putting that on the internet? What is the
point? With a hashtag. I mean, it's one thing to put your own personal, but it's another to label your personal identification so easily that someone, hey, come along, here's my children's.
Blows my mind because to me it is so basic, and everyone has trolls. I don't know what people are thinking. You don't have to be someone with a big audience to have a troll. The girl who didn't like you in high school still doesn't like you. Okay.
Your neighbor who you finds your music too annoying, or like the business owner who feels like you stiff them, or someone who, whatever, you name it. I mean, we see this a lot. There's also a lot of fake stuff too.
Yeah.
A lot of fake testimonies and fake reputational stuff and fake critics. And one thing I've tried to work with my sons on is, how do you tell the difference between someone criticizing something because they're trying to make money for criticizing it versus someone criticizing something because they have something to criticize? Because it's so difficult, right? And that goes to a lot of the heart of our world now. Is this thing being paid for? Is this some sort of scam?
Or
is this like real people talking, sharing real stories? And I think with families also, and maybe even people without children, oversharing is just a problem, right? I mean, it's just it becomes an addiction. It plays on certain parts of the brain that's very similar to drugs and alcohol.
Let me give this PSA, because this is such a good topic. I am so happy to hear you say this. Oversharing is not cool.
No, it's bad. I'd say it's not cool, and it's dangerous. You're sharing information about yourself, even if you don't realize it. You're sharing your background and context of pictures. And it may not even be the geolocation data that you were talking about, but it could simply be the picture on the wall. Or it could be the background that comes out of a window, or the person walking by you in the window. But also it shows what you like, what kind of food you like, what you don't like, who your friends are, what kind of car you drive, where you travel, what kind of plane you fly on, what kind of clothes you wear. And if someone wants to profile you, then all of a sudden you've just provided all that information. When I say profile, social engineering takes on all kinds of different ways in which people try to get in our heads and steal things from us. They steal our money, they steal our names, our reputations, our licenses for things, our ability to do things sometimes. And if you're letting them, then you're just stupid.
Right. And it sounds like the cleaner your online reputation and the more you stay away from social media and signing up for everything, it sounds like your information is even more valuable for those people who want to steal your identity, because they could probably get approved for certain things easier than someone who's all over the place, right?
It goes both ways. So if you have stuff all over the place, then someone can easily walk into a bank if they had a fake ID and pretend to be you, because then they can start to answer questions or they can call a bank or say,
right.
I've moved, I need you to change my address, and my beneficiary is no longer this son, it's now this son.
Right.
We had a client who's very successful and had a situation where someone used some information they had stolen from him, like about his life, personal information, to then contact the brokerage that held his retirement accounts, which were in the millions of dollars, and attempted to change the beneficiary address so that anything that would have been sent, checks, statements, whatever, would have gone to this other address, not his. And they tried to change the email address and the phone number. And the only reason that it didn't go through was because this particular person had been with this particular brokerage for long enough. And luckily, the same person had serviced his account for a really long time. So at that point, it was only because there wasn't a younger person who didn't know this client. If it had been a younger person who answered that phone, the chances are that those accounts would have been shifted and all that money would have been drained. And it would have taken a few days. So that's just one concrete real world example, but I think like all of us face these risks. And I think that when you look at it from a really short and encapsulated way, do you want to overshare? No, oversharing is the worst possible thing you can do. Sharing sometimes is the worst possible thing you can do, but oversharing for sure is it allows criminals and bad actors and stalkers, rapists, really bad people to create a roadmap into your life.
I had someone, and maybe this is me being paranoid, but it sounds like not. I had someone, I think I did maybe an appearance on Court TV, or maybe I made a video, whatever it was. And that's also a problem that I don't even remember what specifically it was because there's so much out there. But I had a painting behind me, okay? This person messaged me and said, hey, did you get that painting from, the art? No. It was like the art gallery in like Palm Springs, California, near this street. And I'm like, no, I got it at Home Goods. He's like, oh, because I had seen this there. And I thought to myself, is he trying to figure out where exactly I'm located? Because who gives such a specific, such specific detail when you're asking about like something on the wall? Like it was
I agree. That's wild.
It was so strange.
No, I mean, that's social, that's profiling. Okay. That's the thing. When people watch CSI on television, whichever city it is,
right.
We see a lot about profiling, and how did this person use this chemical? Where did they get this? Well, in the digital world, the profiling becomes easier and easier and easier the more information is shared.
Right.
So, and then for families with kids, it's like triple time because schools have the information. Sports teams have information, churches, synagogues, mosques, youth groups have information. Academic planning things have information. College counselors, financial aid. I mean,
yeah, you see schools now that give the kids iPads, or they need to have an iPad and all of that. And so then it takes me back to, if you have a parent who is very much into their kid having an online presence, they don't even want to monitor it outside of, put some controls on what they're actually seeing. And then you have another parent who's like, no profiles. You can browse the internet, not a problem, but you're not making profiles. You're not posting pictures. You're not doing this and that. When you have those two things going on and they're parallel parenting, and it's just different things in different houses, how do you still keep the children safe on the internet?
Well, I mean, I think that's a really important question. And you and I have talked about this offline a lot. Okay. I think that in my opinion, even if if the parents are warring, okay, there needs to be a blueprint of which, at least there might be some variations, okay, but there needs to be a age-appropriate blueprint that each parent can follow, at least ostensibly, to keep their kids safe.
Yes.
Now, they may disagree about things around the edges, okay? But when it comes to things like using multi-factor authentication on everything, yes, that should be obvious. That should be nothing. There's nothing political or religious or anything why you'd have any objection to that. Let's keep our kids safer. You're going to say no to that? Okay, great. Let me take you to court. So right away, I think that if you can create some sort of neutral framework that's not about which parent does what, which parent pays for what, but simply about, here's the devices that we know they use, here's the access to things that we know they need. So you make that like column 1, okay? Column 2 might be the things that we like to use, but we want to be sure that it's safe. And then column 3 might be like, this is the no-no list.
Yeah, it sounds like they just need to get on the same page about these basic things so that the access is something that doesn't jeopardize anyone's safety.
And parents have to think about it. It's a two-way street, okay? If you don't protect your children, you're also not protecting yourself, because if you allow your children to get hacked, then your information gets hacked as well, because we're also connected. They're connected by Wi-Fi, they're connected by email, they're connected by networks, they're connected by family plans. And so if your child gets hacked, if their phone gets hacked, there's a high likelihood that your identity is going to get stolen, that your credit is going to get affected, because that you allowed your child to get hacked. So I think that that's a pretty simple statement for any mother or father going through any type of divorce or family strife situation. And I would extend that to single parents who have either already been through divorce, or maybe they lost a parent or their co-parent because of death or
any
whatever.
Any adult that is in charge of a child.
But when you're dealing with your own children, if you're not protecting the digital space that they're in, it's the literal, in my opinion, equivalent of not protecting the physical space that they're in at home. Maybe at school it's harder because you're giving up control to the school, but at home, I would like to think that most of us take a pretty strong effort to protect our children. But the digital world is like, you should be taking the same level of effort.
I completely agree with you. And let's end on this. I want to know your product and software recommendations, okay? Now
I'm gonna have to start charging you.
Well, tell me this: do I need to throw my iPhone in the garbage?
No.
Okay, so not in the garbage. 3 states away.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Well, if you do that, someone in Alabama will become you.
Okay, good point. What about my Alexa? Am I throwing her in the garbage?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, my iWatch.
So you're a lawyer, so you probably need it.
I don't need it. I don't need it.
iWatches for older people have tremendous health benefits because it helps monitor
Yes.
their heart and their location. So for that matter, I like them.
Yes.
But I
Great
think that
point.
anyone who has an iWatch should really follow Apple's recommendations on how to keep it secure. And they should
Okay.
follow every step, do everything that's required. Most people blow it off, and most people don't do it. And the factory settings are usually the most basic.
Right. Right. But it sounds like you're more Android than.
But that's because I'm a computer geek and I like to be able to play with stuff and take it, add stuff and delete stuff. On Macs, you can't do that.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to be a computer geek. So maybe I'll switch. I don't know. Okay. And let me see here. So obviously you said WhatsApp is better than, WhatsApp or Signal are better than
Then
safer
SMS, then
Yes.
SMS.
Yes. What about email?
So email is complicated, right? I mean, if you can find a platform that doesn't have any ads on it for your kids, that's way better than using a Gmail account or something where there's ads being shown to them in the email stream. Okay. We recommend for families that they use something that's encrypted both ways, so that then when they're sending emails to their children, it's between them and their children. It's not open to the world. So one thing would be to make sure that your email provider allows you to offer that. If not, find something that has no ads and encryption. So something like Proton Mail is actually perfect for families because of that. There's no ads. It's encrypted. It's secure. If you ever lose your information, you have to sign in again. They delete the old ones. So from that perspective, you might lose your old data, but it keeps things safe. And I think also but most importantly, is not to put your children's information onto digital things unless it has to be.
Right. Roger that. I got you. I love that. I wish more people would listen and hear you on that because I see that they don't. And here's my last question, Alan. Do we need to get off TikTok?
Oh boy.
No.
Either way, I'm sure I'm gonna have like my own trolls come after me now, and whatever my answer is gonna be here.
And I'm gonna be the first one if you say no. I will be the leader of the trolls if you say yes. If you say we have to get off.
I'm very mixed about it. For kids and everything, I think it's fine. For anyone who's using their phone for anything sensitive, it's probably a bit of a problem. You might want to consider having a second phone just for your TikTok experience, and then not have your financial legal worlds commingling on a device that's phoning home to Beijing every couple minutes.
You know what? That is great advice because obviously the friends I have who work for, the government and, people that I know in those spaces, everyone has two phones. That's just like, no brainer for them to provide a phone for them. Yeah. And if anytime I text them on that phone, if I ever say TikTok, they immediately say, delete the text. I don't even want the words TikTok.
Yeah, because it sets off alerts on the filters that are on their phones.
Yeah, they're like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want links. I don't want anything.
Okay, having said what I just said, I'll also add, for anyone who does not need to use it, perhaps don't. And the reason is, it is what is technically called a persistent surveillance device. Even though it's an app, it's functioning as if it's like a phone listening to your every thing. It's written with algorithms that the company to this day hasn't fully ever revealed, like the source code. So there could be stuff going on in those algorithms that really are taking all of your data and really are stealing everything. And there's a reason that all these governments and big corporations and even some states are banning TikTok from their workers' phones. And the reason is because there have been a number of laboratory studies showing, cybersecurity geek laboratory studies showing how persistent surveillance the technology is on TikTok. So it's definitely a thing that if I was walking into a government agency, I definitely would not want that on my phone. if I was trading stocks every day, I don't think I'd want it on my phone.
Okay, so I'm gonna go vomit. Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much for all of the info. Where can everyone find you? If you're on YouTube, Digijaks is on the screen. Follow him everywhere. But where can people get in touch with you? Is our
Instagram is Digijaks. Twitter's Digijaks as well. My personal Twitter account is IdeaGov. IdeaGov, IDEAGOV. I'm happy to, through our website, we've got a little chat box on the right and ways to contact our company. I'm happy to, try to answer things and address people. People find me through LinkedIn a lot as well.
I love that. Thank you so much, Alan. This was so fun and informative, as usual. As every conversation we have, I'm taking notes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And this has been a great conversation. And, you need to keep up all this amazing work you're doing, educating people on the legal issues and using, I think, smartly using technology to really help spread that message.
Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed on this podcast are not legal advice that can be relied on. They are based solely on the limited information provided. These opinions do not create any attorney-client relationship. Those seeking legal advice should contact an attorney in the appropriate jurisdiction and practice area.